We'll see ourselves. Hi, and welcome to our Q&A with Zach Kauffman from Sawyer Oars. The whole point of this is just to give you all an opportunity to ask Zach questions. We did a fun show the other day, and we just got into gear questions. And we thought, well, I'm down here in Southern Oregon. Might as well get together and answer the questions. So please ask any Sawyer questions you have of Zach. I'm going to ask a few. We'll have some debates. If there's no questions, this will end pretty quick. Beyond my questions.
We'll be very quickly if we don't have any questions.
But I have a handful.
But we do have a few questions that came from last week that maybe we didn't get answers to those folks. But one of the questions was in the naming of our blades and the Pro and the Pro XD. And so that debate will continue. But
wait, will it continue?
It'll continue, but basically I think that really the XD, it might become an XD Pro. I mean, because it's not something we're going to take that Pro out of the lineup.
Well, I was thinking about this on the way over here because I really care about the naming conventions because they help me explain what's going on. How about if you call a traditional Dyne Light, which, do I have one here? I don't even see one. A traditional Dyne Light, we have a Dyne Light XD
traditional Dyne Light's right over here.
Okay, where is it?
I'll be back with you.
So hold on, this is a traditional Dyne. So the traditional Dyne Light only has the Pro tip around this part right here. I would call this a Dynalite. It's light.
It is called a Dynalite.
Yeah, it's a great name for it, right? And then if you add, this is an XD, if you made it just a Dynalite Pro and add the tip all the way around, which I think is important for durability, I would call it Dyna Pro. Don't even do, just Dyna Pro. It's simple. And then the one that has all the extra layers, the ones that I use, Dyna Pro XD. What do you think?
It's possible.
Okay.
It's possible.
Okay.
I'm not sold on it. But the other more important question, we're not going to spend a lot of time on trying to rename something that we may not get to that point. But the other question someone had was about oar care. And they had square tops, not Zach's favorite oar, but they had square tops. And they were noticing some wear on their square tops. And so basically, those can be taken care of with a little TLC. And it's mostly a revarnishing. But also, if you've got dings in the wood and you're getting some exposed wood, you want to do some fill with epoxy fill on any kind of real direct hits into the wood here, and then revarnish over the top. But, revarnishing a wood oar, any square top, any all wood oar, and actually any Sawyer blade besides a Duramax is ideal for the usage. You'll basically get way more life out of your blades and your wood oars if you take a little bit of care on them and actually put some varnish care into.
Wait, is this Duramax?
This is a Duramax.
So saying don't varnish.
You don't need to put any. You don't need to put any varnish over the over the Duramax.
Should I varnish my Dyne Lights?
Absolutely. Dynalites love varnish.
Really?
Every product that has varnish on it when you get it new should get varnish on it as a retreatment and taking care of it. And you can also even varnish Zach's favorite oar, the MXG, because the MXG doesn't come varnished, but it is also getting faded out in the UV rays, so it could use a little protection. And after your oars are looking a little bit tinted, a little bit shaded color, go ahead and put a fresh coat of varnish on it. We have videos in our how-to for how to varnish composite oars and how to varnish wood oars. Biggest thing with a composite is you need to plug up the blade hole in the top before you revarnish it so you don't get varnish inside the shaft and you no longer have blade fitting.
Quick question, because I didn't know that. That's news to me. I love these Q&As.
You should do that all the time.
I have a lot of these oars. It would take take me forever to varnish them all, but I should. If I just go to the store and buy varnish, or should I buy a specific?
Absolutely not. You should actually go to Sawyer and buy Miller Spar varnish.
Wait. If I lived in far away, can I buy it somewhere else?
No.
You have to buy it here.
You can only buy this from Sawyer, and the reason why is that varnishing is an art, and Miller has the menu and they blend a varnish just for Sawyer.
Wow.
And the spar varnish that we use is the most pliable and gives the highest UV protection. Now, if you want to buy 5-gallon drums of varnish, you could maybe buy that at a Miller store.
Of your varnish.
But they do not bottle this up for anybody but us.
Shouldn't this say Miller specifically for Sawyer with the Sawyer logo on there? Wouldn't that be cool?
The folks that mix spar varnish at the plant are basically chemists, and they could care less about branding. We are lucky enough just to get them to actually pour it off into quart and pints for us.
So this is really cool. Can people order this online, or they have to physically come here?
You can order it online on either of our websites. So you can order it at SawyerStation.com. You can order it at paddlesandoars.com. And actually, some of your Sawyer dealers do carry it.
I have another question. Sorry to interrupt. This is important.
Yes.
What if I don't want to use your Miller varnish? What if I do use spar varnish?
If you are in a pinch and you just want to go down to your local hardware store, first of all, make sure that you're buying spar varnish. And one of the only other brands out there that is compatible with all of our products is a Man O' War spar varnish. And you can find that at most marine supply stores. But you want a spar varnish, Man O' War is a brand. Miller spar varnish is basically blended exactly for Sawyer. And that's what your oars came out of the factory with. So you might as well put that on them, and it's going to actually react the best with the varnish that's already on your product.
I had no idea. I'm gonna need to buy some of this before I leave.
I think you need a 5-gallon container.
I do. I've never, ever known this was a thing. I've never used it. So this is great.
Yeah, I mean, you're a big time outfitter, and you basically run composites. But you have other outfitters that are folks that you've probably known for a long time, and they literally bring their entire oar fleet in at the end of the season
and have you guys do it.
And no, they do it themselves. Like they literally set up in their warehouse, just like how outfitters are doing boat cleanings and that kind of thing. They do an oar session.
Yeah, we do.
And some of it where we've seen folks send us videos where they're lined up and they've got 60 oars lined up, and they're just at one end of the other, and they got people sanding them, they got people varnishing them, they're flipping them, rolling them.
We still use wood oars. We still have some. I used wood oars most of my career. For 15 years, at the beginning of every season, you sand the oars, you revarnish them. Absolutely. It was a thing. I hated doing it. That's one of the reasons I switched to composites, so I could save myself from varnishing oars every season.
Right. Well, I know
the thing is I still need to do that.
You still should do that. And actually, there are folks that run our composites that run the MXGs and run the MX large diameters. Yeah. They actually, when they put their blades in, they solid mount their blades. Mm-hmm. They silicone the blades. So they pretty much make it to where they don't want it to come apart.
When you say solid mount, hold on, just so I know, when you put a blade in, you do the whole thing. Is solid mount the screw on the back?
They're basically putting a set screw in the back. Yeah. And some outfitters actually do solid mount and tight set, so that you're basically reinforcing that junction. But
hold on, just terminology wise, because I think this gets confusing. This is called tight set, right?
That's a tight set.
So tight set is the screw when you put it in here like this. Tight set is when you do.
Yeah.
Solid mount is you just drill a screw in the back. Got it.
Yeah. And that's actually a large diameter shaft and a small diameter blade. That's also a good thing to basically go over just for some folks that don't know that. So most folks out there have small diameter blades and shafts.
This diameter.
This diameter right here. This diameter right here, which is going to be 6 inches on center up from your blade, that is compatible with all of our competitors on the market. So you can take your blades and put it in any shaft that you have that you've bought from somebody else, and it's going to fit. Outfitters put a lot more abuse on their equipment.
How dare you?
And outfitters basically run
a
large diameter. Oh, like Zach right here. And so
I'm not the one, by the way, I'm not the one doing it. It's the guys.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
To be clear.
And there is a difference, because if the owner outfitter buys the product, then the guides use them. And it seems to be that there's a little bit more abuse on it because they don't own it themselves.
There can be.
That's just kind of one of those things. But one of the things to be aware of is, and this is a debate that we have quite often, is that it is more crucial for you as a recreational boater to actually buy standard diameter blades and shafts that are going to be interchangeable. And one of the points that I'd like to make with this is if you had bought the outfitter large diameter and you got the oar and the blade set up, and now you're on a 6-day middle fork trip, and you do actually have an epic run somewhere, you break a blade and you didn't have a spare, you're an island. There's no one else that can help you except maybe an outfitter if you flag them down.
We're going to have this debate now because I don't get there's a lot of logic problems here. First of all, you're saying that private boaters don't abuse their oars either.
Oh no, they do. Okay. I just said they broke it.
Don't private boaters deserve to have beefier stuff too?
They can still get extra duty everything in the small diameter.
Yeah, but why not have the bigger diameter if you can? And the island thing, I get that. Like, okay, so
then you should just basically get your entire boating crew that you boat with
to use large diameter.
To all go into
awesome.
large diameter.
I'm into it. But that's the same thing like when people use square tops, their spares are spare. When their spare breaks, they're on an island as well because there's no interchangeability.
Right. Well, that's also why if you're going to run square tops, you should actually buy a set of three.
Sorry, I'm pushing you that way because I'm getting argumentative. I'm pushing.
Buy a set of three, so you actually have a spare square top as well. But many folks have done that.
But when you run MXGs, you should also have a spare.
You should, absolutely.
But what you're saying is you should have a spare, but you should also be able to interchange with everybody else out there who has the small diameter.
You're talking about the person that's already sold on composites. If we're going to go composites versus square tops, I think you should basically have 3 square tops. And then there's actually other folks that are going to be on your trip that probably have 3 square tops as well. You interchange with those folks.
Okay. Whatever. So many. I just think that private boaters deserve to have durable gear too. That's my point.
Absolutely.
And you're saying, sure, but since most private boaters use a smaller diameter, you might as well have the same convention all other private boaters have.
You should be interchangeable across the board.
All right. Well, except with outfitters who have large diameter. And
right. But if you want to be supported at a dealer and you walk into a dealer's shop in Montana or Idaho or Colorado, more than likely you're going to be able to get what you need.
That's a good point.
If you have small diameter.
Okay, good point.
If you have large diameter, you might as well just get a hold of us directly and wait in the mail.
This is what I'm afraid of. We're just going to rant on our
topics. Ramble on. I know.
But we have a question.
Do you have a question?
Yeah. Just ordered a 16-foot high side rowing, all the desert stuff around Western Colorado. 11-foot is what I think I need. Which model should I consider? Do you want me to answer that? I really want to answer it.
Go ahead. I know what you're going to tell them.
Okay. So the length of your oar does not depend on the length of your raft. I would measure the distance between your oar locks, and I would multiply that by 1.63 to get your oar length. I think 11 foot's probably too long. A 16-foot boat is generally a 10 and a half. If you have really wide oar locks, maybe an 11. So I'm guessing you don't want an 11. But measure the distance between your oar locks, multiply by 1.63. That's going to give you what you want. And what do you think?
And I would add to that. I think 11s are a little long as well. But don't just take the formula. You got the boat.
Geez, the formula's fine.
No. You got the boat. You got the frame. Go ahead and just tape it out. Just put something in there. Then, because, if you put an 11-foot chunk of something in there and then figure out just where that's going to be, you're probably going to easily see that, wait, I got way too much or inside the rowing cockpit. So I need to shorten this up. You're making an investment. You're buying 10.5-foot oars or 11-foot oars. That's an investment. And, it's not necessarily something you're going to be able to just walk down to your regular shop to buy. So even if you're going through a local dealer, you're probably going to have them order them in for you. So you should probably do a little extra due diligence just to make sure that you're already thinking 11s. Zach is telling you 10.5s. I'm agreeing that 10.5s will probably be more likely, but don't take our word for it. Tape it out, check it out a little bit, do a little bit of research, and then pull the trigger.
Wait, what tape it out means? Get the oars, like
you can even put a tape measure. You can even put a tape measure out and just pull 11 feet and see where that sits.
But how do you know where it ends?
Frame on the boat, just like the frames on the boats here. Put that 11 feet in you're gonna have to use your imagination a little bit
You're gonna
about
need, that's the
what.
problem. You need imagination. That's not gonna be perfect. Just do the 1.63. It's gonna work. I'm really curious, Caleb. What frame do you have? What manufacturer frame do you have? That might affect it too. We're gonna disagree a lot. I don't know why we always do this.
No, it's because it's regular banter. It's giving people both sides.
Okay, there's one. Okay, I'm marking.
Not everybody's on Team Zach. Well, they might be on Team Zach,
No,
but it
they're
could be
not.
on your team and some on my team.
Okay. Planning a pretty wide double frame, got 11.75. Whoa, yeah. I mean, so based on my equation, I don't think anybody should go over 11 feet. So like, it just, you can't really make an effective foot long on 11 feet, right?
11.5-foot oars.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be pretty bendy, right? It's gonna be hard to get an oar longer than 11.
Most oars that we make that are 11.5 feet are large diameter. They are built for outfitters, and that's kind of commonplace. So, your 16-foot boat doesn't necessarily seem like that's what outfitters are rowing. Most of those are rowing 18-footers that they're putting those bigger oars on. So, I mean, you may want to consider large diameter if you're going to go 11.5 feet, large diameter, and to do the MXG and to do extra duty everything, because you are talking about a lot of leverage. And if you get into a spot where you're going to put both hands on that oar and your feet on the cooler, a little extra diameter and some MXG, extra duty everything, might be the help you need.
My advice is don't, your frame's probably too wide. A couple of just considerations. Your oar locks might be beyond the width of your boat. And so if you go up against a wall, you're going to smash your oar locks on the wall. So I'm guessing if it's that wide, you have really wide oar locks. I would bring the oar locks in. That's a lot of oar that's a lot of width between the oar locks. So that would be my suggestion more than anything.
Put it together. Put it together in your yard and take a look at it.
Yeah, but if your oar locks are that wide, I'd say 11. You're right, 11. That's my opinion. Zach says put it together in your yard and use your imagination to figure out where you think the oar's going to be. Okay, Blair, I bought a set of 10-foot MXGs. Now I want 10-foot 6. Should I just add the 6-foot handles? Wait, there's longer handles?
You can easily do the 6-foot handles if you want to have that option. The 6-inch handles is definitely a way to increase.
That's interesting. Is that this?
So that's this. And a handle extension is definitely something that's going to give you that extra 6 inches. And you might as well put these on so then you can at least see that, yes, that's exactly what I want. And then possibly down the road, if you wanted to get rid of those, you can basically sell them as 10s or 10.5s, depending on what you want to do. But that gives you the 6-inch option. The other option is if you go with shaft extensions, that does not give you a 6-inch option. This is actually a 14-inch option. And the reason for that is that there's got to be the amount of internal shaft to support this piece. And so it can't be just 12 inches. So yes, the 6-inch handles extensions, you can get them as regular extensions or as counterbalance. And they're a great setup to just basically increase that length.
That is really cool. I didn't know this even existed.
You see, you need to come down here more often because, when you're in the store, you notice a lot of things that are not.
I was in the store for half an hour. I didn't notice this, but the question coming up, this is a game changer for a lot of people, because I think a lot of people are in Blair's spot, but I'm guessing, this is just my guess, that you bought oars for your boat and you realize they're a little too short, which is a very, very common thing. I see it all the time. And this is a great solution for just like fixing your oar, or you learned on a set and you got your oar management down, and now you want a little more power because your oar management's good and you want to go to the right length oar. So this is sweet.
Yeah.
How do you feel these work? Are they pretty solid, or do you think
so? Because we are the only ones that use a tight set. When you put an extension on your 10-foot shafts to make that 11-foot 2 for your Grand Canyon trip, and you tight set them both in, they're solid. And we've actually had people that have done that and then actually went ahead and solid mounted it as well for their Grand Canyon trip because they want it to be a little bit more solid. So it is an option, but it's the 14-inch piece that really gets people all thrown off. but
Because it's not exactly a foot.
Because it's not exactly a foot. But I should note that any of you out there that are rowing Sawyer blades on somebody else's shafts, I got news for you. Your oars are now 2.5 inches longer than what they were when you bought them, because all of our competitors' blades are 27.5 inches and Sawyer's blades are 30 inches.
Ooh.
So newsflash, you're already rowing an oar that's 2.5 inches longer, and you are trying to figure out, like, I don't know why it is, but I really like these Sawyer blades. Might have to do with the fact that you just increased your oar to a 9.2.5, and you got a little extra leverage. Your oar management's really good, and you're like, oh, these row really great. But you've actually changed two things, not just one.
A couple inches here and there, I generally feel like isn't a big deal.
Yeah,
like
I mean, people do it all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I think people literally put dynalites on competitor shafts all the time.
Yeah.
Never realize that they've changed the length. And they're like, hey, it works great. I like the dynalite. And they find out that it rows real well.
All right, Blair, you need a spare. Come shopping. Sawyer and Oars, SawyerOarsandPaddles.com.
And SawyerStation.com.
Sawyer Station.
Sawyer Station is where we are.
Do you sell composite? Oh, is that the answer? Do you sell composite extensions?
Absolutely. Right here. What color you want?
Oh, wow, there's red.
So every color in the composite line is available.
I don't see black over there. Okay, he's got black. Here's the red one. Let's move on to the next question. Dan's asking a question. Zach, get ready for this. I have wood smokers and one. Oh, here we go.
We got white.
Whoa.
We got black.
Hold on. Just want to
These
ask
are
about this.
multiple of
Is
that are all.
this the same as an MXG?
No, that's
Do you
an
have
MX.
do you have an MXG extension?
We don't have a stock MXG
But you could make
extension,
one if
but
I
we
really
can make
wanted
an MXG
Okay,
extension.
got it.
And
But I
yes,
could-
we
but-
do make extensions for small diameter and large diameter.
But I could use an MX. I could use this extension on MXG. It wouldn't matter that much.
Yeah.
It's just a little
As
bit of
long as you
weight.
get a large diameter. And it's not like you're dealing with
just so you
dealing with
know,
that much shaft.
I
You
have
know,
a few.
basically
I have a few small diameter oars.
You do, because I've sent them to you.
I have a couple. Okay, next question. I have wood smokers and one is bent slightly. How do I straighten it back out? I'm going to try to answer this question, Zach, and then you can answer it.
A wooden smoker?
And it's bent slightly. How do I straighten it back out? You buy MXGs. You just move on from wood oars. Wood oars are a dead art. They were really fun for most of our boating careers, but it's time that we all switch to MXGs. Is that the answer?
Yes and no. Unfortunately, once a wood oar has warped and has changed and no longer is true, you're going to have a hard time trying to get it straight again. Now, you can actually, if you've got a clamp carrier that is literally as long as the entire straight shaft of the oar, which we're talking a clamp carrier that's 9-10 feet, you can actually heat it up and put a little reverse bend in it, clamp it down, and let it cool. But the chances of you actually bringing that back to true, typically any wood oar that gets a little bend in it, that all of a sudden becomes your spare. And ironically enough, a lot of wood oars that have been spares, they get the bend in them because people jam them in underneath the cooler or the frame and up out of the oar, and it's torqued in there, and they leave it in there all the time, and they leave it out in the elements. So unfortunately, once you got a bend in a wood oar, you're gonna have a hard time making it straight again.
I own a bunch of bent wood oars. I've rowed a bunch of bent. You just row it. It's just a little different. You just
find the top, mark it, give it to the low totem pole on the guide staff, because they're probably gonna get blisters in their hands because it's a row.
I give a low totem pole person because it makes them learn. They learn harder, but also they're the most likely one to break it. If I want to order break, it's the bent wood one. It's not my brand new MXGs. Hey, how does the bending happen? Is it because they didn't varnish it enough? Is it because they just like put it somewhere to?
It's usually elements and extreme heat or cold. You know, it's usually how they stored it.
Yeah, you know, I have a bunch of old wood oars. Some of them for if anyone wants to buy a bunch of wood oars, I have some for sale.
So Zach is actually going to get you a spare that's going to replace that bad one.
I have some.
And he'll make you a screaming deal for it.
Yep. You have to come to Hood River to
You
get
got to
it.
come to Hood River. So, you know, most of this all bases out of Oregon, but But yeah, you kind of have to come to Hood River, I
But at
guess,
my
if you're gonna get the
office,
free
I
one
have a
from
bunch
Zach.
of wood oars. $200 a piece. They're solid ash. They're
200
sweet
bucks a piece.
Just
So
a
he might
screaming
give you a
deal.
deal if you actually do a live feed with him and, discuss your journey
I
to
probably
his
won't.
place.
No, I probably won't.
Oh, okay.
I'll probably charge
Then,
extra for
then
that,
maybe you
actually.
should just come with us directly
Or
and,
just
and
come
buy some new oars.
get some MXGs. I feel pretty strongly, and I rode wood oars for a long time. I was in love with wood oars. The feel, the look. There's just something special about wood. And I started rowing cat boats with MXGs, and then I started running gear boats with them. And it was hard to give up the nostalgia of wood oars. It was really hard. But once I started using MXGs, they're superior, I think, in every way possible. And I have this argument with other outfitters all the time who love the wood oars. They're more durable. They're easier to fix. They cost less, I think, don't they? They cost about the same, but if you break the blade, you can replace just the blade. You don't replace the whole thing.
Right.
They're lighter. They're as stiff. I think they're just like I don't know. I just think the MXG is the way to go. And wood oars bang.
I'm not going to agree with you on the MXG. I mean, I think the MXG
What?
is a great oar and absolutely has a place in the lineup, and we wouldn't
It's
continue
your
to make
flagship
them.
oar.
We wouldn't continue to make
Your
them if they
flagship
didn't have a
oar.
place. But there is still something about a wood composite combo, which is a
Okay,
square
hold
top
on.
or a
We're not
non-square.
talking about. We're not there yet. I'm talking straight wood. I'm talking
Straight wood,
like-
same thing.
like a wood like this oar over here. I guess so.
Composites, square tops. Square tops are all wood
Hold on.
from the handle to the blade.
Hold on,
Anyway,
let's not talk about square tops yet. I'm
this
talking
is the
about
same thing. This is where it came
solid
from.
wood oar. This is the oar we learned on. This is the oar that we use forever. I just think that this is an ancient thing.
You maybe don't need a smoker whitewater
Yeah.
unless you are an outfitter in various areas of the country in
Name
which
one
they
area.
are ideal.
Why
We have
would-
several
ideal?
outfitters on the Grand Canyon, on the Colorado, that basically love the smoker whitewater and they think it's the best
nostalgia.
oar.
Exactly,
And
nostalgia.
we have other outfitters on the Colorado that actually have their own spec of a Sawyer, a smoker whitewater, and it's actually a spec that's in their file, and it has that perfect balance and that flex and that feel, and that's what works for them. Zach, on the other hand, has migrated from wood oars
modern technology.
to MXGs, and that's what works for him. But the bottom line is that Zach is knocking over brand new paddles in the shop
I'm gonna have to buy that.
as if like he's a bull in a china
I'm gonna have
shop.
to buy that. But Zach, I just want to say, I feel like, again, the wood oar. There's no advantage of the wood other than they look cool. Name one
No,
advantage of the wood.
not at all. There is no way to completely mimic the flex and feel of a wood oar, which is one piece from the handle to the tip of the blade. Every one of our composites that we make, no matter how
there's
nice we
some-
make them,
yeah,
there's
some-
give at the blade junction and
Okay.
there's give at the handle junction. And then if you actually have it a breakdown, there's give there too. And it's transfer of energy.
Got it.
Hands down. And that's the thing. I mean, that's what people enjoy. I mean, obviously, anytime I go on the river, I bring an entire oar toy box with me. And all the different woods are what I row. And it's like, if you get used to rowing that,
Okay, when you say all the different woods, you're saying straight wood oars through square top type oars.
I will clarify. I don't necessarily go out and row with smoker whitewaters or Sawyer lights very often.
And Sawyer lights are all wood oars as well.
All wood oars as
Okay.
well. I basically take the ash dynalites or the
What's an ash-
non-square.
what's an ash dynalite?
Basically, it's a dynalite blade on an ash shaft.
Oh, you take an ash? How do you do that? Oh, okay. So we're getting into these oars that are. Is there wood below this? Is this wood?
This is all one. This is wood all the way from the tip of the handle to the tip of the blade. So even though it has a dynalite, this is what a square top is. It's all wood from the tip of the blade to the tip of the handle, even though it has a dynalite blade, even though it has carbon fiber over the overwrap.
So why not run all
It's
wood
all
then?
wood.
What's the advantage of covering this in carbon?
The advantage of a square top is that with all of the square tops or even the non-squares is we're able to add strength and snap, responsiveness to the oar without extra mass. So we can actually diminish the mass lighter swing weight, and still get that real quick responsiveness and the strength. That's where the Dyno X's have a little more flex. The carbons have a little bit more response.
Okay, let's talk. Okay, there's no more questions right now.
Okay.
So we're gonna talk about oars a little bit because I had this ongoing debate with Zach and actually everybody here at Sawyer probably about, I think the MXG is just like the ultimate oar for whitewater. And I'm talking whitewater. Let's just assume Rogue, River are more difficult. So we're not talking about like class 1 floats. We're not talking about fishing. For running rapids, the MXG is the superior oar because of its stiffness, its durability. It's just a simple tool. And you would say, I'm guessing, your favorite oar is the square top for whitewater.
So I would say that the square top and the MXG sit at the top of whitewater.
Which one's better?
I would say it's the rower's choice. I would still row square tops. And I row, the Upper Klamath has decent whitewater, lots of rocks, and I prefer rowing square tops on the Upper Klamath.
So square top, for those of you who don't know, probably already knows, has the square at the end. And it looks cool, right? That's one reason it's square, but also provides some natural counterbalancing.
It is balanced by design. And the biggest thing is that also because it's one piece of wood, well, it's a laminate, but it's a piece that you're holding onto the same piece of wood at the tip of the blade as you're holding on at the tip of the handle. So you have that one continuous piece of wood. There's 3 laminates here. You can see them right there. And by design, you have the Dynalite blade, which is the Dynalite blade, same as what's on your MXGs. We have diminished mass in the shaft. You can see that this shaft is actually quite a bit smaller than an MXG, as an MXLG is way bigger than this.
Oh, when you say MXLG, you mean that's the large diameter? Because there's a lot. I want to clarify because there's so much terminology that I'm still catching up with.
Yeah. So we diminish the mass in the shaft. We put a little extra mass above the rowing fulcrum. Then in turn, you have a very light swing weight overall. And that's the beauty of every square top. Now, I'm not a counterbalance person. So if I was to row this in an MX series, I would basically row a Dynalite blade or a Dynalite Pro or a Dynalite XD.
If you run this in an MX series, what does that mean? Is there an MX version of the square top?
Well, a comparable oar would be either an MX with an extra duty or an MXG and extra duty.
Okay.
One of the things, we've had this discussion before, but basically your MXG that you love so much has the same exact overwrap as this square top right here. They're absolutely identical.
But there's also wood.
Both of them are overwrapped the same way.
Yep.
One of them is overwrapped over wood. The other one is overwrapped over a base fiberglass shaft.
And the one difference though is this is smaller diameter. So if I remember right from engineering classes, a smaller diameter is more like, it doesn't have the same stiffness. It's more likely to potentially snap.
But the carbon weave that's on both oars we're talking about is basically like a Chinese finger cuffs. So as you
What's
bend,
a Chinese finger cuff?
If you know, like you stick your fingers in it and you pull and it tightens up on your fingers.
Oh yeah.
So same thing. You take your shaft and it bends, the weave tightens up, and so you're going to have just as much.
Okay, so which one do you think is stronger, the MXG or the Dynalite or the square top?
They're going to break about at the same rate.
So similar strength.
Similar strength. I mean, if you're going to take and put the blade shaft junction, and then you have to decide where you're going to do it. But basically, if we're going to put it on the shaft, or we're going to put it on the blade, because basically, if you're going to do it with an MX, then you're going to give up that junction. So is it really a true test there?
Okay. So
they're both extremely strong.
Let's talk pros and cons. They're about the same strength. Are they about the same cost?
Pretty much.
Same cost. And the advantage of the MXG, one of them is that if you break part of it, you only broke that part. You can replace the blade. And if you break the blade here, you've got to get a new oar. It's kind of like a wood oar. You got to replace the whole thing. But an advantage or disadvantage.
The advantage is this is going to have a much lighter swing weight.
So that this will be less, or it'll be much less to manage. Same durability. You're saying same durability though.
Very, very similar durability. If you're gonna basically, if you're gonna put a full perimeter on this, which you got to realize you're running full perimeters XDs, where you can do that on your square tops too, but we don't usually, because typically people aren't really putting an XD on in their blade, because you don't really need to reinforce the blade. Because if you actually beat something up, if you actually wear these down, then you're probably 300-400 days on them, and I mean, the chances of you actually dinging them just in the edge of the blade is fairly minimal.
Okay.
You're not putting extra layers of.
If I was to buy these oars, I'd go full wrap for whitewater. I think for fishing, see, in my mind, the square top's a fishing oar.
Well, see, now, like we did an exercise with this the other day, and the ideal oar for fishing, yes, there are more square tops in that category. As far as the top oar, there's several varieties of the square top and the non-square oar in the fishing category, but also the smoker bandits are in there as well, which is a composite oar, but it's a composite carbon fiber oar that is super lightweight. And so, yes, square tops, basically light swing weight gives you an actual
This is the Bandit
ease of rowing all day long.
The Bandit's a beautiful oar,
but it's not a whitewater oar.
Yeah, I think it's
a class.
I've seen people have these for whitewater.
Yes, yeah.
And they'll probably break. These would be great for racing.
I think you have a question.
These would make awesome racing oars. But hold on, before we get the question, I want to get back to the advantages and disadvantages. An advantage of the square top is it's one piece. And so there's
lighter swing weight, more direct transfer.
Jump in the video. Sorry, I keep pushing you over there. More direct
transfer of power, because you're actually holding on to the same piece of wood in your hand that is actually at the tip of your blade.
Cool. But one, I would say an advantage of MXGs is they're stiffer. Like I want stiff oars because I want to push and I want the boat to move. I don't want a little.
Yeah, your MXGs are stiffer than a square top, because the square top is more comparable to a standard MXG, to a diameter,
a small diameter one.
Small diameter. Yours are large diameter.
So you're saying private boaters don't deserve stiff oars, is what you're saying. That's what I'm hearing.
They have to quantify. Some people come in and say, yes, I want the stiffest oar that you could possibly get.
Yes.
And we do give them that option.
That's a good thing.
But that's not every rower out there.
So, but I think you want a stiff oar because when you push on the handle, you want the boat to move. But a lot of people want an oar to flex a little bit so that there's this like rebound thing that like they can bungee off of when they're rowing, which I think is kind of weird, but whatever. But I also know people that have shoulder problems or
there are guides typically end up migrating into the fishing side.
They're fishermen.
But after you've put X amount of years in as a whitewater guide, it starts to become a little bit attractive to like, maybe I'll just go on the fishing side. I can still get plenty of guide days in, but I don't necessarily have to be running really big whitewater. I don't necessarily have to be running 18-foot gear boats. And my shoulder's starting to click. My elbow's starting to click. I'm starting to see the upper 40s, low 50s. So maybe a little bit easier rowing is ideal.
Yeah, and so that my point is, if you're into whitewater and you still have that like class 5 big gear boat, MXGs,
and you're in your 20s or 30s,
you're more
MXGs
like
all the way,
finesse, and you're the lighter stuff, then a square top might be appropriate.
Yeah,
or a bandit. What I see a lot is people in like catarafts with square tops, and they want to go run like class 4 and 5 with their square tops. And my take is it's not the right oar for that kind of thing.
Class 4 and 5, I would definitely agree that just for the mere fact that you have a greater chance of breaking a lot of stuff in class 4 and 5. So if you're gearing up to break things, maybe you should have interchangeable blades.
Okay.
Because, square top, like you said, we can't change out the blade.
I'm ready to move on. Let's see. MXSG. So, John, MXS used to mean small, didn't it? And now it means standard.
Small, standard, same thing.
Okay.
MXS is compatible with everybody else out there.
It's the small
diameter. MXS.
MXL is the larger diameter, the stuff that you don't think private boaters should be allowed to use.
They can
Okay.
buy MXLs if they feel like it. They just
I have
might
a-
not have anybody else to
Blair.
get repair from.
I have a set of 10-foot square tops with dynamite blades. I like them both. Like them both. So are you saying you have MXGs and square tops? I think that's what he's
You're
saying.
the ideal Sawyer customer.
Yeah. You should buy more oars. What else can we sell you, Blair? We can. Ooh, the V-lambs. Speaking of other oars, this to me is the sexiest oar out there. The V-lamb. This is a
The sexy
beautiful
wood
oar.
window.
This is, look at this thing. Would you use this on whitewater?
I do use it on whitewater, but not class 4, but lower road. Absolutely.
Man.
Class 3 water. So it's just basically this oar is
That's not even
definitely,
square top.
this is the nicest combination of blade to shaft interface. And really the difference with a square top and an all one piece wood is that how is the flex coming out of the blade into the shaft? And the V-lam gives you a nice even flex all the way from the tip of the blade to the tip of the handle. Now, probably don't have a lot of anglers out there, but if you are an angler, you can relate to the fact that a V-lam, square top or non-square, actually has an even body flex from the full oar. A Dynalite actually has a mid-body flex because it has the same Dynalite blade, but it has an X-weave shaft. And then the carbon square top is more your tip flex, your fast action carbon flex, not as much flex. It's the stiffest square top out there, but all of them light swing weight, great for rowing 8 hours a day.
What about this? A
That
V-lamb.
is the V-lam blade, and any blade makes a big difference on any shaft. So people are like, oh, what about this shaft or this shaft? It's like if you've got an MX shaft or you've got a polecat shaft, it's all about the blades.
What if I put a
Now they
V-lamb
don't
outside?
go on a Bandit.
Oh, that's too bad.
Bandit, you will notice, is the only oar in our line that comes with a 3-inch hole on center because the Bandit blades are made specifically for the Bandit shaft. If you've got a super lightweight carbon fiber shaft, you need to make a blade that's compatible. And that's why we made these this way, because we don't want people putting our competitors' blades in the Bandit shaft. We don't want people putting our blades that are too heavy for the Bandit shaft.
Because it could break the shaft.
Because you don't want to have an oar that is overbladed. You want to have a blade that's comparable to perform with the shaft.
Would you use this for whitewater?
Yes.
Could you do a full wrap on these?
Yes, but I wouldn't use it for, same thing, lower road, class 3.
Okay.
Like whitewater, yes, there's
This would
class
be a
3.
great for racing.
Class 3 is still
would be
whitewater,
a
but
racing
I
blade.
wouldn't use this for class 5.
Okay. Cool. I think we have more questions. By the way, we're ranting. I'm asking questions. This is really intended as a Q&A, so please ask the questions in the comments. We'll try to stop ranting and get to questions. Is that the same as the MXS? I see those primarily on the website. Is the MXS the same as the MXG? I think that's the
No.
question.
So the MXS can be the same diameter as the MXG, but the MXG means that you're getting the carbon fiber upgrade, and those are stiffer. So MXGs are what Zach runs in a outfitter diameter, large diameter, and that is the stiffest shaft we make. We actually have those in, basically they only come in 3 colors, red, blue, and black. And that's an MXG because that is a carbon fiber wrap, very similar to the square top carbon fiber wrap. An MXS is not carbon fiber. It is actually a fiberglass X-weave triax, which is this right here. That's an X-weave fiberglass, and those come in a multiple of colors, not nearly as stiff, but still would be paired up with a Dynalite blade or a Dynalite Pro or a Dynalite XD and be an excellent combo. You could actually pair these up with a V-lam even, and you would have a super light swing weight.
So the advantage of this over an MXG would be it's lighter.
Lighter and a little bit softer flex.
It probably costs less.
And a little less cost. A little more affordable.
All right, more questions. Zach, I've seen all your stuff about sitting low as possible. Can you talk about choosing oar tower 6, 8, 10? Yeah, really quick. And you can disagree with me because I know you will.
Not on
I'm going to be a little bit hyperbolic or a little bit. I tend to say things that are like this is how you should do it. because I'm opinionated about this. So I'm going to do that, but take it with a grain of salt. You should never use 10-inch oar towers. Like that. That's why people have 11.5-foot oars when they should have 10-foot oars, because their oar towers are tall and out. It makes the distance between the oar locks way too big. I think 10-inch is ridiculous. I'm going to say 8 should be just standard. 6 maybe, but like 8 just should be standard across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to disagree with you. I mean, I row drift boats. I row my raft. I love to sit down on a dry box or a cooler low. My towers are low. I don't like to have really high towers. And that's also, I mean, it's just a personal preference too. But I think, 10, a lot of times if we see a frame with 10-inch oar towers, it does look like you're really up there. It depends. I mean, I guess the only reason that I would see people go into that is if they're actually
super high.
got a real
That's what
super
happens.
high seat.
They get these super high seats, and then they compensate with 10-inch oar towers, and then they need these super long oars. But also what happens with 10-inch oar towers, if they're the kind that kind of attached with a screw, they're more likely to bend over because it's a longer lever arm, basically. So it's really hard to keep your oar tower in place when they're that long. So 8 inches is the way to go. 6 inches close to 8, but across the board, I'm doing 8-inch everywhere. Are you getting something having to do with answering this question?
Yes.
Okay.
So I would have to agree with Zach.
Finally.
And then for this time, go to the 8s. And then if you need to, get yourself a pair of shim kits, and you can actually raise that tower by 1 inch, a 1/2 inch,
Whoa,
3/8 an inch. This little shim kit will solve a lot of those little geometry questions where you're just kind of like, that's not quite high enough, but I think I'm kind of hitting my knee or something.
That's
shim
the
quits.
third thing I've
Absolutely.
learned today. That's number 3. Number 1 is this Miller stuff. Number 2 are the 6-inch extenders. I didn't even know that existed.
Oh yeah, shim kits all day long.
Yeah. Cool. I want to move on. Absolutely love my square top V-lambs on class 3 to 4 Western Desert Rivers. I didn't realize there were class 4 desert rivers. I guess that would be, what river would that be? I don't know. That's cool. They're beautiful oars. They're very, very sexy.
And they row really well. That's the thing, is that not only do they look cool, but they row extremely well. And so that's why a lot of us row V-lambs, because they look good, but they row really good.
What do you like about it? I never rode them. What do you like about it? I just think they look cool.
It's the piece. And I don't know if you're to that point yet. You may need to get a little older and wear your shoulders out a little bit more. But the fact is that they just have a super nice flex, and
You lost me a flex.
they're very light. I mean, the blade itself is lighter. You put these,
I just think it looks
you put
cool.
these on an MX or a polecat, dynamite combo.
By the way, I'm going to order some of these for the racing before I leave today, because I think I'm going to want.
Actually, no, this is what you need for racing. These scooped lambs.
What?
Fur lambs scooped. That's what you need.
Are you kidding me? Oh,
That's it.
Would I want this for racing? How does pushing work with this? Because you
Depends on where you're going.
Interesting.
If you're going to push, you need to make them sure they're going the right way.
Scooped. Who is this for?
For folks that are launching through the surf, lifeboat racers.
That's interesting.
That's a whole thing.
Lifeboat racers.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Lifeboat racers. They're
All right, I'm going to move on to the next question.
Extremely
Do your
fun.
full composite oar shafts vary the thickness, layup, etc., along the length to put the stiffness and strength where you need it most, or is the shaft the same along the length? Great question.
yes and no. 9 foot and under, they are the same. 9.5 and over, they are not the same. And basically what I mean by that is that a 9.5, a 10, and a 10.5 gets what we call a 2x4, which is an extra stretch of fiberglass reinforcement in the rowing fulcrum. And that basically gives you a little bit more strength right in the oar lock zone. And that's the difference. If you're going to a 9 or 8.5 or 8, they're the same all the way through.
Hey, Thomas, I sent you an email too. I got to order some more frame parts. By the way, for those who don't know, Thomas makes frames and or connection parts. it's worth checking out, but I need to order some stuff from you. All right, next question. I would love to hear more about the Shoal cut blades. That's funny. That was on my list of things to talk about. And what you think about their applications in whitewater. This came up somebody asked this question a few weeks ago. Should people be using this for whitewater?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Why?
First of all, you need to buy the product for what you're going to do the most. If whitewater is what you're going to do the most, then no, you probably don't need a shoal cut. But if you are going to actually run some shallow water where you want to get a little bit more purchase in just a couple inches of water, then the shoal cut is ideal. And also, just having that bulbous blade, when you actually pull an oar stroke and you're pushing that big bulbous piece of water, it does give you a little bit more of a cushion. So it doesn't actually slice and catch more as much as a standard blade. But the biggest difference is that basically when you're in a couple inches of water, you're basically going to see a lot more shaft. A lot more blade used.
Surface area in the water.
Surface area in the water than you are with just a standard blade. Just that blade is you're going to use just the corner of. This blade you're going to use the entire belly. That's the biggest difference of a shoal cut and what their primary purpose is for angling. Once again, if you're actually fishing an inside corner and you've got deep water purchase on one side, but you've only got 2.5 inches of water on the other side, and you can still get a good purchase with more blade in the water with a shoal cut. And so that's the biggest difference. But we do have people that run them on the middle fork, and there's definitely whitewater that they're rowing with them, and they're happy with them. But I wouldn't be like a class 5 whitewater blade.
What would be the disadvantage if it's not shallow? Anything?
The disadvantage is that it is quite a bit of a blade. It's quite a beefy blade, and so you're definitely pulling a lot of water with it. And also, it actually has a belly on it. So there's actually more blade below the center line than there is above the center line. So what that makes it is you really need to actually roll your wrist at the end of your rowing stroke, because actually as you pull that stroke, then you want to actually let that blade come up and release that gate at the end of each stroke. And so that piece is kind of just, you have to figure that part out when you're rowing shoal cuts. And we have people that row them mostly for angling. That's where they are the biggest. And you get comfortable with it. And it's just kind of like you kind of pull all that water, and then you actually get to just roll it, and it just like releases and pops right up to the top of the surface.
That's how I row with spinnies. When I run spinnies anyway, I'm just doing that little thing. That you say you need to do that with the shoal cut. It really kind of expects you to do that.
You want to kind of fine tune to that. Absolutely. Wow. Because it you'll notice that there's just so much blade, and at the end of the stroke, it actually wants to kind of roll because you've got a belly. They have a top and bottom. We see people all the time going down the river like this, rowing them upside down, but they actually have a top and bottom. If you let go of them in your oar lock, they will sit bottom down. That's the way they're made to row. And actually the name will read correctly also. So that's basically how shoal cuts are supposed to be.
Do you kind of hope that people buy like a shaft and they get themselves a shoal cut for low water and a V-lamp for class 3 and a dyne light for class 5? Should we be in this world where we have one shaft and blades we take based on what we're doing?
It would be, that's one of the beauties of a composite shaft, is that you can put, a shoal cut and a standard blade. That's pretty common, where we have people that order just blades and they're changing it up depending on what they're doing. And that would be a disadvantage to square tops. And that's why we tell people when they're buying is you have to buy for what you're doing over 50% of the time. So if over 50% of the time you're fishing shallow water, buy some shoal cuts. If over 50% of the time you're running class 5, buy some XDs and some MXGs. Okay.
Cool.
Buy for what you're going to use the most.
Oh, this is the class. Oh yeah, class 4. Westwater, Cataract, Gates, Salt. Oh yeah, does Trauma have class 4? I thought Trauma was class 2. Tiampa, Bruno, Gates of Lador, Dolores, Colorado. Yeah, that's true. I guess I didn't pay attention to that. Okay, sorry about that. So let's get to Orlocks. And again, we're almost done. Like if there's more questions, we'll answer them. Otherwise, we're gonna finish on
We'll wrap it
Orlocks.
up.
And we have some in front of us. The first thing we'll talk about is the Cobra. You know how I feel about this. Tell us who, like this is a Cobra Orlock. Who is the Cobra for? Who is it designed for?
The Cobra is designed for anybody that actually wants to have a lot more range of motion in their rowing cockpit, and they have really good oar management, and they can actually benefit by actually having a lot more range of motion.
So I'm
Make
hearing you
those
say
moves.
this is not for beginners then, because they need to have good oar management.
I would encourage a beginner to spend more money on their oar setup than
Orlocks.
Orlocks.
Wow. So this is for experienced boaters because they have to have good oar management because the oar goes so vertical. It's easier to break the oar with these. Who want that big range of motion? Why would you want that big range of motion?
There are actually people that actually shift their boat side to side by actually just making short little crab strokes. And the
vertical crab strokes?
Some vertical, definitely anglers go vertical.
Okay.
But actually rafters will move sideways by just literally making a little high stroke, but actually just pushing and making them.
I can do that with the Black Mamba. You don't need a so you're saying, okay, here's what I'm hearing. Here's what I'm hearing from you. The Cobra is the Orlock for those of you that have good oar management that want to do the little crab strokes.
That want to actually have a wider range of motion.
Okay, wider range of motion.
10 to 15 degrees more range of motion than an A-lock or a Canyon, aka
10 to 15 degrees. Yeah, it seems like more than that. But you would know. Sorry, I don't know. I'm not the expert. Okay. I call this the Black Mamba. What's it going to take for you to change the name of this to Black Mamba? You should have print more of these. Just print Black Mamba and it's done.
We've gone through this before.
Okay.
This is actually a lock that was designed by an outfitter on the Colorado, and the name is their name that we came to.
He told me I could change it, by the way.
We came to agree.
No,
I would need that in writing.
Actually,
I'm not getting in the middle of it.
I have it in writing. He emailed me. He's like, "Yeah, it sounds like a cool name." He actually emailed me about this because he saw one of our videos.
There you go.
So I'll tell you.
The name is easy to change.
Done. I'll print these for you if that's what it takes.
I need it in writing.
Okay, we're done.
I need you and Bruce have to both sign it.
He emailed you. You can see the email. I said that's fine. Anyway, so things I like about the Canyon, one is it has this lower range because it's flat. It doesn't allow your oar to get really vertical, and a lot of people are breaking oars because the oars are getting vertical, and the raft comes up on it and snaps it. And so what happens is your oar gets to a certain amount and it pops out. You want your oars to pop out when your oars start getting vertical. That will save you from breaking oars. And then he put these little things here. If you fall on them, it's not as painful.
It's not. Yes,
it's
not as painful.
Like if you land on the Cobra,
it's not as painful as a Cobra, and it's not as painful as an A-lock.
A-lock is bad,
but that's just the biggest thing is with the Canyon is there's just so much more mass in here. I mean, if you look at how much mass there is just in the base of it and the bottom of the horns versus a Cobra, there's a lot of mass there. This is the outfitter Orlock, hands down, designed by an outfitter for an outfitter, and that is ideal.
Think private boaters aren't allowed to use these too?
Private boaters that want a boat like outfitters buy Canyons.
Okay. There's more mass there. Somebody was in the shop today, you might have missed it, who also heard of one of these breaking. So I'm almost wondering if there's so much mass there, there's more chances for impurities.
I mean, they're poured. That's the way it is. I mean, the molds are set up. There's literally 6 of them in the mold, and you have just as much chance of breaking a Canyon or a Cobra or an A-lock. They're all poured the same.
Okay. But do you like, because there's more mass here, there's way more mass.
So
Maybe
you're
there's more-
basically saying that with the Canyon, you think that there's more
Since there's more math, there's more,
imperfections because
there's more
you're
opportunity
trying to
for it.
fill this bigger cavity when you're actually.
Is that possible?
I mean, in theory, you could maybe have an argument, but that's something that has to be tested over and over, because what they're trying to figure out is every time we have a broken Cobra or Canyon or A-lock, we're taking it apart, we're looking at it and trying to figure out like why that happened. And typically would be that, you know, these are actually tuned and torqued when they're new, and if they don't break then, they're going to get more bent then than they would anytime you're using them. And so that's where they would want to break.
So you make them and then you tune them, and that's like the testing.
That's
to
the
make
testing
sure there's
zone. Yeah.
hopefully not impurities.
And so the other thing is like we are able to actually, when we machine them, that's part of the inspection, is if there's any pitting in there, then you figure that pour did not get done.
Because this beforehand, this was poured, and you have to machine this down to make
it. Yeah, it's the same as the outside of that. You know,
when
so this is machined down. Yeah, exactly. So that's part of the, and then we do work with the foundry, and they are, you know, when they come bring us another batch of oar locks, and we have ones that have broken or ones that we show with pitting, that forces them to kind of go into the drawing board and make sure, like they're checking their temperatures and their cooling. And, you know, I mean, if you're pouring six oar locks, is you know, they all have numbers on them when they're machined. And so is it in 1 and 6, or is it in 3 and 4? It's like, whereabouts are they in the mold? And so they basically gauge that out, and then they run various tests and try to find the fine medium spot. There's a higher grade of bronze alloy that we could be using, but we don't know if that actually would give it better penetration in the cooling. It's kind of a matter of any of the imperfections happen when it's cooling, because as it cools, it shrinks. And that's
okay, I have a suggestion for you. How about this? So I'm really into this naming thing. How about if we make some canyons out of the higher ability, make them cost a lot more, and call those the Black Mambas? It's like the gold standard. It's the highest level of everything.
Gotcha.
What do you think?
And you're gonna have to text me that, because that is a possibility.
Okay.
Because then we would have something to test against.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm into this. And then that's the Black Mamba.
The Black Mamba. And Bruce would probably be fully into that.
He's already fully into it. Trust me. Okay.
I'm in business. I don't do anything without an email and a signature.
I make it happen. And this is the A. This is the tried and true.
Absolutely.
You cannot go wrong with the A. Classic. I've used this my whole career when I run oar locks. This is a great oar lock. But I want to be really clear. Please order these from Sawyer. Please do not use other manufacturer if you use A's or any of these, because the Sawyer ones give a little bit. And so when your oar comes up, these will give and your oar will pop out without breaking. If you order ones that look like this but are not this, they're generally solid. And when your oar comes up, it could snap. And you see a lot of broken oars with non-Sawyer ones. So I'm not 100% sure I'm only ever going to buy your Miller stuff. But I will tell you with 100% certainty, I will always buy Sawyer oar locks.
There you go.
100%. Okay.
Cross the line. Go Sawyer. Same.
NRS doesn't sell this. NRS does sell this. Right. So you can buy this from NRS, but if you want just regular A's, just go directly to Sawyer
or any Sawyer dealer and just ask for A.
Any Sawyer dealer. Yeah. That's right. Not
buy
just
local.
Sawyer. Okay. Can I get a set of pins and clips at Sawyer Station? That's a good question.
We do not carry pins and clips at Sawyer Station. You could probably order them from Zach Collier.
I just have a bunch of used ones.
He's got used ones. He'll make you a deal.
You can buy those from NRS, though, I think. Actually, don't buy the NRS ones. Buy them, I think, directly from Clavey. I think Clavey sells them, or Recratech, I think, makes them.
Possibly.
Jay, I don't know if you know Jay. Jay is a badass. Jay, by the way, I'm back in town next week. If you want to do the green, I'm available to vote again. I'm all about lightweight, balance, and swing weight. What is the future of oar design, especially with lightweight carbon fiber? Good question.
Well, I mean, we are definitely looking at expanding kind of the Bandit for super lightweight, and that's still not a real whitewater application because there's a real fine line between lightweight and durability. So really it's more of just designing blades that perform well, that are a little lighter weight. And still the composite shaft, you need to kind of have more durability for whitewater. But if you haven't tried a pair of Bandits for class 3 and below, they are extremely lightweight.
Yeah.
I mean, the oar itself weighs just about 4 pounds for a 9-foot oar.
This thing is crazy light.
And it's super lightweight. When you first get a hold of them, you're thinking there's no way this is going to work because it's so lightweight. But you row them with some Canyons or Cobras. You get the wide, you get the wide horns.
Oh,
we don't recommend that. Basically, you want the wide horns to spread out the mass. We do not allow pins and clips on Bandits. We do actually run a different oar lock, which is called a strong arm lock, which is actually no rope wrap, and it's just a sleeve. But it's really all about just kind of dissipation of how much torque you're going to put on that shaft, because they are super lightweight. I mean, they're a carbon fiber shaft. It's like a carbon fiber kayak paddle. I mean, it's made to be lightweight, but as far as light swing weight, the Bandit is an absolute dream to row. And so it's not really something that you'd want to be running class 4 plus on, but class 3 and below, and you know how to row, you can row them all day long.
I think, Jay, I would rarely tell people to row this oar because they're expensive, and most people will break them. You boat beautifully, and you're not boating gear boats. You're usually cat boating. I would personally approve this for you, knowing your boating style and ability. But most people would probably break a lot of these. Are these more or less expensive than an MXG?
More expensive.
Yeah, it's an expensive oar. But man, it is so light. You would dig it. You would definitely dig it. All right, Jay, love my Cobra oar locks. Big advantage I found is getting over taller rocks when there's less time to ship the oars.
I like that.
I don't like that.
Good point.
I would say ship your oars. I would say ship your oars better.
Hey, oar management is great when it works out right, but not always.
It works. No, you practice more. There you go. Vote for Black Mamba.
A vote for Black Mamba. Yeah. We already figured out what that's going to be. It's going to be more expensive and an extra higher grade.
Yep. Material. The highest grade. These are like
the highest grade.
These are the gold standard of oar locks.
The highest grade. Well, we're going to release that higher grade in the Black Mamba, and then in turn, if it really does well, then we can actually take that into the new Cobra.
No. Don't do that to the Cobra. Okay. The Miller stuff works great. That's great. That's good to hear. I'm gonna when I leave this place, I'm gonna be ordering a lot of stuff. By the way, like I'm just, in my head, it's racking up.
So you were asking what kind of things you should have on your store. We've just discussed several of them.
Oh yeah, I switched from A to Cobra because my rope wrap is getting messed up just below the rubber thing. Thinking more surface area is less wear on the rope. Seems to help. If there's anything I should do to protect the rope wrap, some people use wax,
or some people use an epoxy wrap. Epoxy over your rope wrap will protect it even more. Mostly used on the Colorado, but they got a lot of silt that really wears stuff out. And so put an epoxy slurry over your rope wrap, and that will help.
This is a beautiful oar.
It absolutely is.
I really like the red rope wrap. I like the red, like the Smoker Bandits with the flag. This is a work of art.
Made in USA, 100%.
Oh, this is one piece. It's even two pieces. This is a one piece oar.
Oh, it's got a blade that comes off.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Missed it.
3 inches on center. Only goes with that blade.
Okay. Yeah. Did we already cover that?
I'm just reminding you. You thought it was one piece.
All right. Thoughts on Gilman grips? Zach, what do you think about Gilman grips? There's a set right here.
The Gilman grips basically give you a posi drive, and it's it's a personal preference. I've rowed with them, and I can row all day with them, and perfectly fine. Other folks basically row with them. They get in my boat, jump on them, row them, and they don't like them. Just depends on your own personal oar management. I think they are really good if you are prone to not necessarily knowing where your blade is, because it does give you that pause you grab. It is a right and left. So you have to have the right and left. And if that is a problem, if you like break a shaft, you can't just put a regular one in there. One of the things that we constantly are dealing with is people add a Gilman grip upgrade and they get a set of 3 oars. Great on you. We're really happy and stoked that you're getting 3 oars instead of 2, but you can't get just a third Gilman.
Maybe they should get 4 oars,
because you can't get a right and left.
Similar oars for you. You have them get 4 oars.
Yeah. So basically, Gilmans are a personal preference. They are very much molded to your hand. They are ergonomical and absolutely great if you're like that, being just confined into that one space. I move my hands around a lot, so the Gilman kind of makes it where you have to keep your hand in the same spot, but it's personal preference. I use them on some of the oars that I row. I have them on my Bandits and they seem to work great. We see a lot of folks upgrading them onto Bandits. We see a lot of folks upgrading them onto MXs. So it's kind of like if you're going to make that investment in your higher end oar and you've tried them out, you can't put them on anything except a composite. And if you're thinking about getting them, you may want to jump on a friend's and row them for a little bit first. But they're not that hard to install yourself, so you can just order them up on any composite, any Sawyer composite. You can order them up and you can take your handles out. You can't take everybody else's handles out. Some people epoxy their handles in, so you're not gonna be able to do that. But if any Sawyer shaft, you can actually put some Gilmans in there, try them out. They do give you that posi track kind of feel. And so, give them a try.
One disadvantage is you do tarps with them as easy. Like a lot of tarps have like little rings you got to put the handle through. So
that's exactly what I keep in mind when I'm buying oars, is how well I can put a tarp up with it.
It's important. If you're doing an overnight trip,
yes,
you need to be able to tarps up. And so if you have a tarp with rings, this thing doesn't go through the tarps. Imagine expecting to use your oars to set tarps up and you get there and you're like, oh, we're just gonna sit in the rain.
But you know what? With the ring, you can take this blade off.
Are you
stick your ring in there, stick the blade back in, and you're golden.
Wait, the ring, if you do that, the ring's gonna fall down to here.
No, if the ring doesn't go over the end of the handle, it's not going to go over the shaft.
No, the ring goes over the end of the handle, but not the shaft. That's the beauty of the ring, is it comes down and sits right there.
Right. That's what I'm saying. If you do it on that end, it's just going to basically sit where the blade junction is.
Well, then it's gonna be shorter, and you got to deal with that.
Buy your oars so they can set up tarps.
It's an important.
Use somebody else's oars to set up the tarp and row with your Gilmans if you want to have them.
That's a good point. That using your oars for tarps is not good for your oars.
No.
And so if you have Gilmans, then you have to use your friend's oars up tarp. So that could be a great way to protect your oars when it rains.
It's just the reason also, like if you're an angler, buy your friend a boat, because then when they want to go fishing, they'll invite you because you bought them a boat and they row and you fish. So always a good idea to buy your friend a boat or use their oars for a tarp.
Good idea. Zach, I think we're done covering things. Where's that oar? Wait, hold on.
I think we've definitely.
Before we're finished, is this the paddle we were talking about last week? The one
that is slot canyon.
It's pretty sweet. It's a good weight.
It is a good weight. It's a good weight.
And is this? I forgot to ask. Did you guys? Is this a recent new addition to Sawyer?
The slot canyons just came out about a month and a half ago.
And is this a guide paddle or just all around raft? Do you R2 with this?
Guide paddle, all around raft paddle, R2, pretty much in the middle of the line. Free fall is a little heavy duty. Canyon X, a little lighter weight. The slot canyon basically comes with a full pro tip on it, a little extra carbon, and it's just lighter than a free fall, still with a lot of the benefits of a free fall, and a little bit more heavy duty than a Canyon X.
Well, Zach, thanks for doing this. Appreciate your time. Thanks for letting me make this place a mess.
Hey,
there's gear everywhere. I get it back. We got to do some shopping.
Absolutely.
I got to do a little shopping now that we're done. Thanks everybody for watching, and we'll probably have a live show.
Swing by the Sawyer station, and we'll see you on. Actually, we're gonna have part 3
eventually.
Yeah, we'll be back.
Well, and if people want to buy stuff, it's SawyerOarsandPaddles.com.
Now let me give you those. It's paddlesandoars.com. or SawyerStation.com.
Cool.
SawyerStation.com is located in Gold Hill. That is our main retail store. PaddlesandOars.com has retail, pros, and dealers. Everybody can find all the Sawyer product you're looking for. Those two sites.
Cool. Thanks again, Zach.